104 games have been played between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Tennessee Volunteers. It's one of college football's most storied rivalries. But rivalry may not be the best word to describe this series in recent years, as Alabama has won the last 15 matchups. And while Tennessee has come close a couple of times, namely in 2009, the Tide has rolled through the rest of this current streak, winning 13 of those 15 matchups by 2 or more scores. This year's version of the third Saturday in October feels different, though. Tennessee enters the game undefeated for the first time since 1998, the same year the Vols won their last national championship. And Josh Heupel's group has already exercised one demon earlier this season, taking down Florida in Knoxville and snapping that streak. So why not snap another streak while they're at it?
Won't take it anymore.
Everybody knows who's coming to town and the opportunity that we have, so looking forward to that.
But a 16th win over Tennessee sounds pretty good to Alabama. And on paper, the Tide has all the advantages. A better quarterback, running back, receiving core, defense, and of course, head coach. Nick Saban has yet to lose to Tennessee as Alabama's man in charge, but the GOAT is well aware that this game is not played on paper.
This is a really, really good team, a real challenge for us, and we got to get it right ourselves so that we do a better job of putting ourselves in position of having a chance to be successful, and when we do that, we got to take advantage of it.
They say streaks are meant to be broken. We'll find out Saturday on Rocky Top on CBS.
Let's welcome in Josh Pate, who will be on Rocky Top this weekend for the SEC on CBS, a top 10 matchup. Number 3, Alabama at number 6, Tennessee. Josh, you're lucky you're going for work. I checked tickets about the 50-yard line, costing you about $1,300 right now. So let's talk about the third Saturday in October. We get this rivalry. This is, fill in the blank here, the biggest third Saturday in October since when?
Since the iPhone, Amanda, because these things didn't exist the last time Tennessee beat Alabama. I normally just have it for use and work, but this is a prop today. It's the biggest third Saturday in October easily of this millennium. Some people could go back to '09, but there weren't national title implications for both teams on that game. There were for Alabama. Lane Kiffin just kind of led Tennessee in there and almost stumbled into an upset. '07 was the first year that Nick Saban was on campus. They barely made a bowl game that year, yet even that year, they found a way to beat Tennessee with 5 kids suspended before the game. They onside kicked to start the game. So that's how Nick Saban began this run that has led to the fact that there will be kids who drive to this game legally Saturday who were not alive the last time Tennessee won one here. So easily, biggest game in this rivalry, this millennium. And by the way, Amanda, that means there is the whole generation in the 15 to 30-year-old range that has no concept that this used to be the biggest rivalry in the SEC. It took a backseat to nothing.
Yeah, some of the guys playing in this game don't even understand that. They just know they're in for a heck of a game on Saturday. All right, the quarterback matchup, Josh, we all want to see is Bryce Young going up against Hendon Hooker. Nick Saban saying he's hopeful Bryce Young will be able to play. I think all of us are assuming that he is going to play. What are your expectations for him?
I cautiously think he'll play. That's the first question we have to answer, just is, will he play? And if he doesn't, that's its own separate segment we could do. But if Bryce Young plays, the follow-up question becomes, okay, well, you know, what percentage of Bryce Young do we get? I don't even know how we've ever measured that. How do you know someone's 83% of themselves? But the real question that you'll start to see answered if he is playing right there in the first quarter is, what kind of offensive balance can Alabama strike? And Amanda, that's not going to be found on a stat sheet. It's not going to be equal amounts of passing and rushing yards. It's not going to be equal amounts of rushing attempts and passing attempts. What it will be is, can Bryce Young make the throws? Can Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator there at Alabama, feel confident enough to dial up the throws he normally would with number 9 there in Crimson at quarterback? If he can, that means Alabama's able to strike real offensive balance, which means just nothing more than Tennessee has to believe they could throw it or pass it on any down. If you strike that offensive balance, Bama can put up a huge number Saturday. If they don't strike that kind of offensive balance, that means Tennessee can key on the run. And if Tennessee can key on the run, one of the most wildly underrated statistics in this game is they've got a top 10 rushing defense right now. And if they're able to key on you, they could greatly decrease the amount of scoring opportunities and that offensive output Alabama is able to achieve.
Let's go to Hendon Hooker here. We have Bryce Young, the reigning Heisman winner here. Hendon Hooker has shot up when it comes to being a favorite to win Heisman. Right now it goes C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, then Hendon Hooker above Bryce Young. How much of a Heisman moment could Hendon Hooker have in this game?
I think he had one against Florida. But by moment, I just mean a big game. I know people look for plays. I think that in totality, you look at their performances in a game. But you're right. I mean, this is it for him. And this is an Alabama team that comes in with, to me, 3 of about the 5 best outside linebackers in the country. Everyone knows about Will Anderson. I think most people know about Dallas Turner. I think some people know about Chris Braswell. But the thing about it is they're all on the field at the same time a lot now. They call it the cheetah package down in Tuscaloosa. And they figured, hey, we got these guys for a short length of time. Let's make sure we feature them all. If Hendon Hooker, and that Tennessee offensive front for that matter, is able to stand up against that, and he's able to put up the kind of numbers or remotely the kind of numbers that he's done against lesser competition this year, and of course it culminates with a Tennessee win Saturday, it would be impossible to ignore that. The Heisman odds right now, C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, he would rocket up those. And I'd almost put it to you like this. If you plan on taking Tennessee on the money line here, Amanda, you kind of have to correlate it with a bet right now at plus 1,200 odds on CJ, or on Hendon Hooker rather, on the Heisman line there, because you would see one happen and immediately trigger the other to happen.
Yeah, 12-1, not too bad. Put some money on it right now if you believe in this Tennessee team. When you look at every aspect of this game, each team's defense and offense, what is the most dangerous side of the ball going into Saturday?
Well, clearly to me, it's Alabama defensively, only because we've gotten so used to Tennessee's offensive production. They're clearly one of, if not the very best offenses in the country. They're very dangerous. They're multiple. They're versatile. And so there are more than 1 or 2 ways that they can beat you. But what we have baked into that is the fact that Hendon Hooker has not thrown an interception, it feels like, since he was 5 years old. They just haven't turned the ball over. That is, of course, a critical recipe to offensive success. Well, here's the thing. When you face a pass rush like this, and you face corners that are really good and physical in press coverage, it could lead to a Saturday where you do see that dry streak of turnovers come to an end. Maybe you do give the ball over a time or two. If that happens, the million-dollar question is, how much does it throw a crowbar into the bicycle spokes of that offensive production? Does it grind you to a halt? Are you able to recover, and next drive we just get right back at it? We don't know, Amanda, because we haven't seen Tennessee have to deal with that. They had a game that was pretty ugly when they played Pitt, but it was a lot of other kind of self-inflicted wounds. It wasn't a bunch of interceptions thrown. Alabama can force interceptions. Alabama's defense can score on you. And so that's the most dangerous side to me, because if you're able to promise me nothing more than Tennessee plays turnover-free football Saturday, that alone gives me really good indication they got a shot to pull the upset.
Josh, this game setting up to be maybe the best game of the season that we have seen so far. Number 3, Alabama, visiting now number 6, Tennessee. As you mentioned, going into this, Alabama has won 15 straight against the Volunteers. Tennessee has never been able to beat a Nick Saban-led Crimson Tide. Alabama favored by 7.5. The total set at 65 right now. It is Wednesday. We are hopeful about Bryce Young. What's your play right now?
My play is to take the Tennessee Volunteers straight up and with the points. I just feel like it's the right time for them. I feel like they are playing the best football that they've played all year. They're playing the best football they've played under Josh Heupel. We've already seen them in one of these big pressure home situations against Florida. Now, you may scoff at that all you want to. I was there. It was massively built up because they had their own little losing streak against their neighbors from Gainesville. They got that done. They've been on the road in a hostile environment, and they turned it unhostile very quickly last week against LSU. So this is not new, okay? We've got a lot of proven commodities about this team. I don't think Alabama has peaked yet. I think Tennessee's peaking right now. So it may very well be that down the road, we end up seeing Alabama and we name them the best team in the country. Right now, I think it's a perfect opportunity for Tennessee to pull the upset, and I think they will Saturday.
Big prediction there from one Josh Pate. Guaranteed it's going to be the loudest game so far this season. Josh, thank you so much. Josh Pate, of course, has his very own show, Late Kick with Josh Pate. Latest episode there, his top 25 power ratings. Make sure to go download, follow, and subscribe. And this is the game we are waiting for this weekend. The SEC on CBS Saturday, 3:30 Eastern. Number 3 Alabama visiting number 6 Tennessee, traveling to Rocky Top there. You can also stream the game on Paramount Plus. SEC on CBS Saturday afternoon, and boy, is it a good one. You do not want to miss this. A top 10 matchup. Number 3 Alabama visiting number 6 Tennessee. Tennessee's best ranking since 2005. However, since Nick Saban has been at Alabama, Tennessee does not have a single win against them. 15-0. What about Saturday? So let's welcome in part of the Cover 3 podcast. We have college football experts Chip Patterson, Barrett, Sallee. Every third Saturday in October, we get this rivalry. It has not been this good with this much at stake in a very long time. Chip, I'll start with you. What are the keys for Tennessee to get its first win against Nick Saban in Alabama?
Well, I mean, it starts with some of the obvious things in terms of like what has helped Tennessee be able to get here. You know, it is about being able to handle this moment. It's about being able to handle expectations. There's so many times where we have looked at Tennessee at the Florida game. Are they going to be able to handle this streak snapping opportunity? And they showed that they were absolutely ready for the moment. So I think that is something that can go in their favor, but it's a key to the game. I also think it's going to be important to stop the run. You know, this is something that Alabama's really had to lean on, obviously, since Bryce Young's injury a little bit more, but also preventing Alabama from being in those situations where they're in third and manageable. Bryce Young might be able to take off and get that first down with his legs. And then finally, this is less about Tennessee and more about what we've seen when it comes to beating Alabama. It is your wide receivers winning one-on-one battles. That is the thing that is so iconic, and luckily Tennessee has the talent at wide receiver to be able to do it. When we have seen Alabama take these losses, it is because they man up on the outside, and when those corners for Alabama are not winning the one-on-one battles, then you finally have a little bit of a numbers advantage. So you've got to follow in the same footsteps as the Clemson Tigers did to a couple national championships, as all the way as Ole Miss certainly did, and as all the way as Alshon Jeffrey with South Carolina back in the day. You got to win those one-on-one battles, and that's a key for Tennessee.
Yeah, and they're getting Cedric Tillman back, or could get Cedric Tillman back, which would be huge for the Vols because then they would run 3 deep at wide receiver. I'm going to start off with my key being convert red zone opportunities to touchdowns, not field goals, touchdowns. That's the reason Texas lost to Alabama, and Tennessee cannot have that. They have to capitalize when they get into a scoring area because you don't win games with field goals against top-tier competition. So I think that's the one thing. If Tennessee's offense is clicking, and I think we all sort of assume that it's going to click a little bit. When you get in that chance, when you get that opportunity, cash in on that. And then you got to stop Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, look, we talked about stopping the run. I'm not necessarily as intimidated by Jason McClellan or Roydell Williams as I am with Jahmyr Gibbs, because if you stop Gibbs, I don't think either one of those other backups can have the kind of success they need to move that offense on a consistent basis. And the third is Hendon Hooker on the ground. You got to get him moving on the ground. We know what he's capable of through the air, and his wide receivers are phenomenal. But this guy, especially inside the 10-yard line, like you saw right there, he is absolutely money. So he's a key actually to my first point, which was convert red zone ops to touchdowns. Hendon Hooker, we know how fast they play. He's going to have to break those big runs off, but also get the dirty yards, get the 5-yard gains on first down. Get yourself set up for advantageous second down situations. So Hendon on the ground is an absolute must for Tennessee.
Both of these teams coming into this one undefeated. Alabama 6-0, Tennessee 5-0 so far. Let's talk about keys for Alabama to get the road there. And Barrett, I mean, this atmosphere, we saw it for Florida, but for Alabama coming to town, it is going to be insane.
It is going to be insane. This is the biggest game in Knoxville in probably 15 years or so. The biggest thing to me is possess the ball. We saw last week against Texas A&M, Jalen Milroe had the 2 fumbles. He tossed the pick. Williams had a fumble. Those led to scoring opportunities, touchdown opportunities for Texas A&M. That has to happen if you're Alabama, because not only do you prevent those short fields, but you also keep Tennessee's offense on the sideline? And that's the one thing. That's how you beat Tennessee. You don't let them have the ball. So long, sustained, grinding drives. That's one thing. The second is protect the QB, whether it's Bryce Young or Jalen Milroe. I think this offensive line for Alabama, it was a little sketchy last year, it was sketchy the year before. I think it's certainly gotten better this year. I think we saw that against Texas A&M, but they aren't great. And we know what Tennessee's capable of. They're opportunistic in the defensive backfield, and that is something that I think they certainly need to work on because, again, that will sustain some drives and keep Tennessee's offense on the sideline. And the third is just weather the storm, right? You know, we saw against Texas, that was a hostile atmosphere, and that was a noon game. And they had a hard time adjusting to that. This is a 3:30 SEC on CBS game of the week on Rocky Top in front of 100,000 plus, and they feel it. This is a Tennessee fan base. It's not like the Butch Jones era in 2016. They feel like they have staying power, and they've showed it throughout the first 5 games. So this is going to be a rocking atmosphere.
At the risk of being a total simpleton, can I just say it's a key that Bryce Young is healthy? Can I just say that Bryce Young needs to at least be able to be 75 to 80% of peak Bryce Young for Alabama to be able to win this game? And that's not just going into the game, but what happens when he takes his first hit? You know, Tennessee's got a couple pass rushers that are certainly going to be trying to put their body on Bryce Young. You know, how are you going to respond? Are you going to be able to prevent further injury? Bryce Young's health and availability is absolutely a key for Alabama in this game. The other thing is to get off to a fast start. 2 aspects to this. Number one, I thought it was a huge part of the win at Arkansas, the game where Bryce Young got hurt, that the Crimson Tide were able to establish a 28-0 lead, take the crowd out of it, be able to take control of that game. And now the opposition, Tennessee, has been great at getting off to a fast start. It's one of the best first quarter, first half teams in the entire country. We joke often that Josh Heupel deserves a SAG award for all the scripting that he's able to do for this Tennessee offense. If you're Alabama, don't find yourself in a hole against this Tennessee team. Instead, you be the one to get off to a fast start. And finally, the pass rush has to get home. Looking at you, Will Anderson. Looking at you, Dallas Turner. These are elite pass rushers, some of the best in the country, and Hendon Hooker is elusive. Just getting into the backfield is not enough. You got to bring Hooker to the ground.
Right now, Nick Saban saying he is hopeful that Bryce Young will play. Of course, Chip, you bring up a good point. If he does play, what percentage of Bryce Young do we get there? Let's get your pick on this game. Alabama at Tennessee. Alabama favored by 7.5 right now. The total set at 65. I was listening to Cover 3, and you guys assuming the spread right now factors in that Bryce Young will be playing. Chip, we'll start with you. What's your play in this game?
I'm going to attack the total. Tennessee plus 7.5 sounds like fun, but it also sounds like heartbreak as you watch the Alabama players light up cigars with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But I think that this is going to be an under. I think that there's no way a game of this magnitude is going to lead to not a couple of mistakes, not a couple of drives that end in missed field goals. I think both offenses will be able to move the ball, but there's just so much weight on this game that I don't see us looking at 42-39, 35-31. I think that this is a game that has a much more SEC-like score, and we end up going under the total.
Take the points. You won't need them because Tennessee's winning this game outright. I think the Vols right now, a more consistent offense. Look, Jalen Milroe, if he plays, Tennessee's going to win rather handily. If Bryce Young plays, I think it's fair to assume that he's not going to be 100%. Because if he was anywhere close to 100%, he would have gone in last week. And I know this shoulder injury can fix itself. He can heal relatively quickly. But if you're not 100% against this Tennessee team, you have some massive problems because you cannot have empty possessions playing against this Vols team. We saw it against Florida. They didn't punt. We saw it against LSU. First 4 possessions, didn't punt. This team gets you out of your game plan. They land the first punch because Chip mentioned it. Heupel deserves a SAG award because his scripts always work. If you get behind this team like LSU did last week, it throws everything off. I think that's what's going to happen to Alabama. I think they're going to get, they're going to have a little bit of a storm early. They're not going to be able to weather it throughout the rest of the game. I think Tennessee's offense leads them to a big win for the first time in a decade and a half. You see the Vols and those Vol fans light up those cigars.
Barrett, Sallee, and Josh Pate saying Tennessee is going to win this game outright. Guys, we appreciate it. For more from Chip and Barrett, make sure to download and follow the Cover 3 podcast. Everything you need to know about the world of college football. You can also scan that QR code, watch right now. Latest episode getting you ready for week 7 as well. And then the SEC on CBS going down Saturday afternoon. It is going to be loud on Rocky Top. You don't want to miss this one. Alabama at Tennessee, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.